This highlights the incredible amount of manufacturing and work, the people behind the story, the women in manufacturing, African Americans in manufacturing, the men and women who stepped up and just did incredible work in this area to support the war effort and victory 75 years ago.
Dan Buttery is CEO of the War Memorial Center, but with this temporary display in the Freedom Gallery, his role is more like curator. He helped turn the exhibit called On the Homefront into a reality. This compilation from various public and private donors demonstrates Milwaukee's role in World War II when it came to industrial ingenuity.
It was just as much as putting on a uniform when they strapped on those work boots and went to Alice Chalmers or Bucyrus area. They were literally going and fighting the war.
You just heard the company Alice Chalmers mentioned. Used to be right here at the corner of Washington and 70th here in West Allis. Obviously the building's gone, but its legacy in relation to World War II stays strong all these years later.
One of the significant contributions of Milwaukee industry during the course of the war was the production of turbo superchargers. You can see the device located in the back here. They were manufactured by Alice Chalmers. They made an incredible 100,000 of these devices during the course of the war, and the factory was staffed almost entirely by women. You can see this photograph obviously was posed, but two women working on this turbo supercharger. What it was used for was to provide American air superiority.
Author and history buff Tom Faring played a big part in making the content in this 1,500 square foot space a reality. He actually wrote a book to coincide with the exhibit.
I think unity kind of sums it up, the way everybody came together. There was a lot of hardship. You know, certainly all of those that were drafted or volunteered and served and that sort of stuff. And people concentrate on that a lot, but they forget all of the other Milwaukeeans. There were 200,000 Milwaukeeans that worked in factories and in various other roles. A lot of these Milwaukee companies, these old Milwaukee companies, were pretty much co-located. You know, they worked together. And like during the war effort, you know, there are companies like Heil that made truck beds and the like for fueling equipment, to fuel airplanes and the like. Well, they needed other equipment. You know, they needed engines, so they would buy engines from Milwaukee Motors or for Waukesha Motors.
For Faring, a lot of this resonates close to home as he explains these two Harley bikes used in the Army and Navy.
During the Second World War, you know, my father initially had a job at Harley Davidson, was employed for a while there, but when the war exactly, you know, started and he began serving in the war, he worked in the military police. So he spent, I believe, about 4 years, most of it in Australia, part of it in the Philippines, and being a military policeman, he rode a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
There are so many lesser known businesses with just as great an impact.
There's a company called A.B. Zuckert. I knew nothing about them. And they made raincoats in the war, which were very, very important. There was a little company called J.F. Speaker. They made over 5 million of these things. These are little can openers, you know, so you get K rations. In order to open the cans, use this little device.
I'm told Milwaukee really positioned itself to be an important player during this unsettling time for our country and the world. Of course, easy access to shipping and the railways was a big advantage for us and our allies.
One of the largest areas, and the fact that it was in the Midwest, it was protected, if you will.
And in the midst of this giant history lesson, you begin to understand how history can repeat itself. Take, for instance, Jockey International out of Kenosha.
We have a pair of Jockey undergarments here, and the reason why I learned about them is during World War II, they repurposed to make parachutes. During COVID, they repurposed to make and be able to execute and make more masks in a rapid basis. So there's a continuity of what was happening 75 years ago and this year. And so that's what I thought was just fascinating, is the ability of our community, of our society, and our organizations or corporations, when they put their mind to it, there's no stopping them to help with a greater, in this case, the pandemic. Not only do you have the human element, but you have the engineering side and the functionality side. And the biggest takeaway we would want everybody to understand is just having that aha moment. Just come through, and there may be one or two things that you see and say, I had no idea. In fact, I heard you say that, Michael. You're like, I had no idea. And it's a cool thing. I mean, we should always be learning something every day, hopefully, and this is what we'd love to do.